Hello and welcome to another episode of Life Curated. I'm your host, Nolan Brown. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined on this episode by entrepreneur, philanthropist, and collector, David Ross. David, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for inviting us to your quite magnificent home, Nevill Holt. How are you?
Well, it's very nice to see you, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Nevill Holt in the same way that we extend a very warm welcome to lots of people in the summer for our festival.
Of course, and it's an incredible setting. The first question I always ask is, what was your very first art memory?
Well, I have a number of very early artistic memories because my father in particular was an enthusiastic singer, and not only an enthusiastic singer, but also a very enthusiastic collector. And he used to collect all sorts of different things depending on what his enthusiasm of the moment was. So my earliest sort of artistic memories would have been being taken by my father to listen to the Messiah, or alternatively, being taken to various very high quality antique and collectible shops around Lincolnshire to collect whatever his passion of the moment was.
Because he had a fishing business, is that right?
Well, my family had a fishing and food business in Grimsby, and we grew up in Grimsby. So.
And what were you like as a child?
What was I like as a child? Well, as you know, I was enthusiastic and hyperactive, I would suggest, and always keen to be doing things. And I think one of the things that probably sort of marked me out as a child was my enthusiasm to always be doing things, and maybe to always... I remember my mother and father would sort of complain slightly that I was always sort of trying to look around the next corner and see what was going on. And I think that would, in a way, be reflected not only in my childhood, but later life as well.
So always curious.
Curious, particularly curious to work out what went on beyond Grimsby.
And a good sportsman, I was told.
Certainly an enthusiast. And for those that know me, I would confirm a great sportsman. But for those that know me well, probably more of an enthusiastic sportsman than capable sportsman.
And we have a strange connection. My mother's Algerian, and I know that your father sent you when you were 16 to work on a building site in Algeria, and it changed your life. Can you elaborate on that?
He did indeed. For one summer holiday, send me, I think I might have been 17, but it was in that, I think it was towards the end of my Uppingham career. He felt that at that stage in life, summer jobs were important. He had a big construction project in Algeria, and he kindly decided to send me. And I think it was one of a number of defining moments, but it was quite defining because I think I realised from then on that I had to get my life into my own hands and get...
You absolutely hated it, I read.
I wouldn't say I hated it. Hated it might be a little bit too emotional. It was a challenge, and one that necessarily I didn't need to repeat the following summer.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so we're sitting here in your quite magnificent home, and David, one of the pleasures of doing this podcast, it's about art, success, is actually being surrounded by incredible art. We have this amazing Hockney behind us. What was the first artwork that you ever bought?
Well, if I were to define it down to, because, I think we're all, from a generation where we'd be going to Athena and buying posters to put on our study wall whilst at school. But if we put that to one side...
I still have the Cindy Crawford one, yeah.
I'm not going into the details of where mine is. If we put the Athena poster collection to one side, I think really my interest in art started, my sort of collecting zeal and enthusiasm for art started in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the business that I was involved with started to make some money, and we were collectively able to maybe buy houses that had been a little bit larger than the 1.5 bedroom flat that we'd grown up in when we'd moved down to London, and suddenly there were walls. And that started, I think, internally a conversation about, if you have these walls, what should you put on the walls, and how do you think about that in a way that is coherent and makes sense? And so I would say that from the late 90s onwards, I started thinking more seriously about art and what parts of art I enjoyed and liked, and therefore how I might like to collect art.
Because I watched this YouTube video of an exhibition you had a few years ago, and the curator was saying that you had one of the most significant collections of British artists. But what was the very first artwork that you bought?
Well, I would say if I look back at it, the sort of first significant artwork that I bought, that I remember buying, I'm not sure it would have been a Bridget Riley that I bought from Ivor.
Fabulous. You're very happy to have his name mentioned, and she's truly incredible. Okay, let's put your collecting head on. Do you collect with your head, your heart, or your gut?
Well, I would say that I only collect pictures that I like.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So my starting point there must be that I'm collecting with my heart. And when I started to think about a collection that I wanted to put together, to curate, I decided that I wanted to really focus on British pictures created by British artists in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Which means I've got this envelope of really the early 60s onwards.
And why was that? Why that particular? Did someone guide you on that, or was that just
No, I went to have lunch at Chatsworth with the previous Duchess.
Yeah.
And she had known of Nevill Holt through Nancy Cunard, Nancy Cunard was not her generation.
The shipping family?
Yes, and the Cunards had lived here up until the end of the First World War. And her sisters had known Nancy Cunard, and therefore Nevill Holt and the Cunard family were on their radar. And she'd heard that something was happening at Nevill Holt, and she was interested to learn. And I remember talking to her about her collecting philosophy, and she said one of the things that resonated was firstly that she'd inherited this extraordinary collection at Chatsworth, but her job was to keep it relevant for her generation. I think that is very much a theme of the Chatsworth collection. Each generation tried to keep the collection relevant for their generation. And she also expressed over this lunch how much getting to know, to meet and become friends with artists had added to her collecting experience. And obviously she'd been particularly, fortunate with her deep friendship with Lucian Freud, but that wasn't the only artist. She had a number of artist friends from that generation. And I then thought, well, actually that's quite an interesting thought that I could build a collection. I wasn't inheriting a huge amount of art, so to build a collection that was relevant for my generation could be quite interesting. And then I think the decision to narrow it down to British was really based on the fact I thought I would maybe have the time to get to know quite a few British artists in a way that I wouldn't if I had to meet American and Italian and German artists as well. So that was more in terms of setting a parameter that I thought was manageable rather than, I guess I am by nature patriotic. So the idea of supporting British artists who were creating work during my lifetime seemed like quite a nice one.
And we're surrounded by great art. That Nick Fidian green is just so uplifting, and I'm close to Harland as well, and so great seeing the Harlem images out there is great. Do you think overall great art should challenge, comfort, or unsettle us? Like Ivor, for example, says that a picture should unsettle you at first, and then you can grow to love it. Like, what's your relationship with art, and how it makes you feel?
That sums Ivor up. He is quite unsettling.
We can edit that bit. Or not.
But I'm not sure you should. Ivor's a very good friend of mine, and he's my neighbour, so he would have no issue with me saying that. Look, I think that no artist ever created something that wasn't there to create a response of some sort.
Yeah.
Now, that response could be part of a conversation. It could be shock. It could be awe. It could be incredibly it could be incredibly beautiful, peaceful, whatever. But artists create artworks to create a response and a conversation and a dialogue. And my view is very much that in response to that, it's the responsibility of the collector to make these pictures available as much as possible. So my sort of starting point is and I'm not answering your question specifically, but I'm saying art is created to elicit a response of some sort. As a collector, we are lucky enough to be able to participate in our response, but the important thing is to make these artworks available more generally and more publicly in order that the artwork can continue to stimulate as wide as possible a dialogue.
But they give you joy. They lift you up.
Generally, yes. I would say joy would be the starting point for my collection.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not quite into the shock and awe process that other collectors might be.
Sure. Okay, massive question, and I might give you 3, but I'm going to ask you 1. What is your favourite work in your collection?
That is a very good question. That is a bit like asking, which is your favourite child?
Which is your favourite child? No.
And do you have children? No. Well, when you have children...
I've got great artwork, so...
As opposed to, when you have children, you will realise it's really inappropriate to start making...
There must be one, though.
No, I am very lucky. I love all of the pictures that are hung in my houses, and I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to enjoy them. But I am very reticent to develop favourites because actually I bought them all because I loved or appreciated them or wanted them to be part of the collection in some way. So whilst they continue to be part of the collection, they're very important to me. I mean, if you talk about artists, there is no doubt that you do develop a relationship with an artwork if you've been able to have a relationship with the artist.
Yeah.
Because the artist, you can read an essay about an artwork, but actually there is that doesn't compensate for being able to talk to the artist about what they were thinking when they created the artwork, or indeed what they were trying to achieve, or in certain instances where they were.
In my previous life at Taschen, where I worked for 10 years, I grew quite close to, David Bailey, but also with Alan Jones.
Alan Jones.
And he's quite old now, but so when I was researching you have quite a few pieces, including the statue outside, which I've never seen before. But I just think his work is timeless and sexy and different and of that era. And I know you've got quite a few of his pieces.
Yeah, well, Alan has become a very good friend of mine over the years, and that's one of the great privileges of being an active and engaged collector. Is not only do I get to enjoy some of his work, but as a result of that, I've got to know him. And Alan would be a particular case in point of somebody where you can get an unparalleled insight into an artwork by talking to him about where he was or what he was thinking at the time that he was creating a particular image.
Wonderful. Okay, last question on collecting, and then we'll get into you as an entrepreneur. What do you love and what do you lament about the art world? And be honest, you're a major collector, you've seen it all.
That is a very controversial question.
But it always incites a good answer. But, yeah, but you're a major collector, you've seen all different sides.
Well, look, what I have loved over the years is developing friendships with gallerists, developing friendships with artists, enjoying those relationships, and being able to buy pictures from some fantastic artworks. What I lament is going to a show, a gallery, or a museum and listening to somebody who is significantly wealthier than me and therefore has significantly greater buying power, being advised by their interior decorator as to why they should buy that picture because it would fit above the fireplace.
It's called collector envy, isn't it?
That's not envy, that's dismay. Because at the stage that you need to be advised by your interior decorator not only what picture you should buy, but where it should be placed. That is taking the art world into a slightly different world to the world in which I have been lucky enough to enjoy in the last 25 to 30 years.
And can I just ask you as well, because there seems to be a bit of a backlash at the moment in terms of certain collectors saying that the art has become so expensive. Do you ever balk at the prices? I mean, you have all the money in the world. Do you ever balk at prices and think, no, that's ridiculous? Or are you...
Well, that's a particular challenge for me, because if you were buying some of these pictures that I was lucky enough to buy 25 years ago, then you do look at the price of what they are potentially being offered for today and go, wow. So I don't know if you balk at the price, but it does make the market has shifted quite fundamentally, particularly in some of the more high tier artists.
Okay, David Ross, the entrepreneur. I've read so much, and I see the Wikipedia entries.
That's brave.
No, but the question I want to ask is actually, okay, so you went to Uppingham School, you trained as a chartered accountant, then your friend Charles Dunson said, can you come join me as finance director of the Carphone Warehouse? We see the articles, we kind of see the surface. You lived in a flat in Marylebone, you had $5,000. Tell me exactly what it was like. That kind of cut. When I asked Lord Michael Spencer what it was like when he set up ICAP, he said it was just, there was so much going on. What was it really like? And how old were you when this is the early 90s?
Well, it was 1990. So in 1990, I'd have been 25. Charles would have been 25. We were, give or take, 25 years old. And we both believed that one day people would prefer to have a mobile phone than a phone that was connected to their wall. That was the sort of basic hypothesis in which we decided we were going, and we were incredibly lucky because in the early 90s onwards, in the same way as Michael Spencer says, things at ICAP were very frenetic. Things at Carphone Warehouse became very frenetic quite quickly after that.
But did you feel that you were taking a risk? Because, you had a career to fall back on, but were you just like, Charles, I'm in, let's do this? Did you see the future?
Well, firstly, I think when you're 25, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So in terms of the perception of the risk, the worst that can happen is you're sent back to your 1.5 bedroom flat somewhere.
Yeah.
The reality of the situation is you don't see risk through the same lens because you don't have a family that are dependent upon you. You don't really have a lifestyle that you are dependent upon. So your perception of risk is quite difficult. You don't know what you don't know. You have an undiluted, I think at that stage, belief in your own ability. You have a sort of sense of self-confidence about your own ability that's completely different to what it might be later in life.
Yeah.
And therefore, whilst a number of people around me did perceive, leaving Arthur Andersen, which at that stage was a reputable job within a reputable firm, did see that as potentially a risk. I think was more focused on the upside. I think it was also a question of life and what you want to do with life, in that my family had been self-employed for many, many generations in the fishing industry and in the food processing business and the food business in Grimsby. My grandfather and my father had this phrase, that there was no greater shame than to work for another man. And I'd seen many generations of my family as self-employed entrepreneurs being increasingly or less successful, and therefore the idea of success, failure in that through that lens was not relevant. The driver was, at some stage, you should go and do something for yourself.
What are the steadfast rules you've always stuck to when it comes to business? What are the non-negotiable rules?
You have got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. You have to believe in yourself and in what you're doing. If you don't believe in yourself and what you're doing, and you don't believe there's a purpose, then you should question that. I think, look, the next key part after that is to work out the sort of people you want to work with and the sort of relationship you want with those people, because actually, your operational leverage comes through recruiting and employing and retaining great people.
Because you really expanded the retail side throughout Europe for Carphone Warehouse.
We did.
That was your thing, wasn't it?
Well, it was, slightly, because I had I saw an opportunity. I mean, we both did, but I then got on and did it. I saw an opportunity for, people around Europe were not doing what we were in the same way, and indeed neither were they in America, which is why we then did a joint venture in the US as well.
And last question about this: what did you bring to the role? Were you brilliant analytically? Were numbers your thing? Like, what was there's a partnership here. Like, what did you bring exactly to? What was your USP to Carphone Warehouse?
My USP?
Yeah.
I think I was in the right class at school.
Which was?
The same class as Charles Dunstan. That was my USP.
No, but I mean, okay, fine.
No, look,
public school boys.
No, not in that sense.
No,
we could have been at any school. The fact is...
But what did you bring to the partnership that would made it so successful?
Firstly, I would say Charles and I were incredibly lucky to have known each other and worked together in that particular phase in our lives. And I think he would admit as well, we were just lucky to have each other on days when maybe things weren't going so well, to have the benefit of a partner that you've known for a long time, who you have complete faith in, is incredibly important. So that I wouldn't underestimate the relevance of that personal relationship in for both of us. And look, he remains, he can sell anything to anybody. And he really has a very, very clear, intuitive understanding of the mobile phone industry. Behind that, there was some sort of financial discipline and financial rigor that needed to be put in place. And I would like to think that I helped in delivering that.
I've got so much more to ask you about Carphone Warehouse, but we are here at Nevill Holt. And you bought this 13th century estate in 2003.
2000, I think.
2000. And in 2013, you created the Nevill Holt Opera Festival. And it's happens every year, end of May to June. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Well, it's now really more of a festival than an opera festival, though opera is integral. And actually, we started a little bit earlier than that because we used to have an opera visiting from the south who would come, and so they did that for 10 years. But we set up our own standalone festival in 2013. If I go back to why and the original decision, there is no doubt that this as a place benefits from having public access. Everything is in a way elevated. Everything is there's a huge amount of effort that goes around making this as a place look as beautiful as it possibly can.
I mean, it couldn't be a better location, let's be honest.
Well, I agree with you.
I mean, really, it couldn't be. I mean, look at this. No, but it really couldn't be a better location for a festival.
No, you're completely right.
It's magnificent.
And I hope all your listeners and watchers will take those wise words on board.
Yeah.
Come and visit us this summer. So there's two things. Firstly, I think a place like this benefits from that halo of having people come.
Sure.
The other thing is, this had been a school. And so there was a bit of a sort of, well, now can I not go and visit my old school? Can I do, there was a bit of an incoming mailbox about, I hope you're not going to stop us visiting our old school. And I thought, well, actually, clearly you can't come every Saturday, but there is something about that relationship between us and our school that says I still want to go. And so I thought, well, the most appropriate way of doing that is to make people very welcome, but within a defined period, and to give them something to do. That's what I've done, and that's what we've done, and we've done that very successfully.
And so it's effectively in its 13th year.
Well, it's actually in its 23rd year.
23rd year. Sorry,
I mean, we have had an artistic festival on this site now for 23 years.
I see. And can you tell me more about the lineup for this year?
Well, we have a partnership with Opera North for opera, and they are bringing, as it stands at the moment, 5 nights of Don Pasquale. And then in addition to that, we have jazz, we have In Conversations, we have comedy, we have amazing food, we have a lot of food writers and food critics talking, we have chefs coming. So it's sort of, part of it is about conversation, part of it is about music, and then part of it is about the holistic experience. So if you look at what people do when they come here, they'll spend some time wandering around the award-winning gardens, they'll spend some time enjoying award-winning food, and then they'll enjoy entertainment in the 3 different venues that we've got. Now, in terms of who we've got coming this year, particular people that I think your listeners might enjoy, we like to have a little bit of a sort of geopolitics and political theme. So we have Lord Cameron coming this year. That's not announced. That's an exclusive just for you. That'll be announced in the next week or so. I'll probably get in trouble for that one. Then we have quite an active sports theme. So nice. Jonathan Agnew, who lives locally, always comes and does a little cricket thing. But this year he's doing his cricket-related theme with Jim Carter and Imelda Staunton from
The actress.
Yeah. What's the TV program they're on? Anyway.
I was going to say One Foot in the Grave, but
No. What's that? It's the one with the, and then we have Hugh Bonneville as well.
Oh,
He's from the same. He's from the big castle. What's the name of the program? Downton Abbey. That's the one. So we have that sort of thing. We have Jonathan Agnew will be coming to play in the Melton Mowbray Brass Band.
Wow.
We have the Grimethorpe Colliery Band. So it's a broad church.
And what do you want people to get out of it? They come. What do you want them to really glean from spending a couple of days here? Now, what's the experience that you want them to have?
First, I want them to feel very welcome.
Yeah.
Because there's a fundamental difference between visiting. This is quite a personal experience because it's within the direct grounds of somebody's house. So you're getting a very personal welcome. So I think, and that does differentiate it from quite a few other festivals, which are not quite as sort of personal in that way. So I'd say I want them to have a warm welcome. I'd want them to enjoy the place, and then I'd want them to enjoy the multi-layered options of the experience, so that they go away having experienced some fun, an intellectual challenge in some way, some musical pleasure, some great food, some amazing gardens. But I'm not prescriptive, because some people will want to come just because they want to meet an author. Another will come because they want to listen to some music and then some comedy. And I don't want to be prescriptive about what people want to come and enjoy. I want them just to come and have a good time.
Yeah, fabulous. And also I can imagine on a kind of late spring evening or day, this would be an incredible place to come. Setting it up, tell me about the challenges and what you've kind of got personally from Nevill Holt. Like, what has it brought to you? The festival itself. Like, what do you enjoy the most about organising it?
The key about it is that the content, to the degree that needs to challenge, to stimulate, to be interesting, to be amusing.
Yeah.
Because the starting point is you want to go and see as much as possible of the programme.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, because a number of the invitations are coming, maybe not from me personally, but as a result of an introduction from me, so what it does, I think, is it gives you personally the opportunity to experience things that you might not otherwise experience, bluntly, in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah.
But what it does locally is it embeds Nevill Holt as a place that's relevant and important for the education programme and for the local community that we run through the festival. And through my charity, we run 40 schools, many of which are local. Those young people get the chance to come to Nevill Holt.
Nice.
And it embeds this as a place in the minds of those young people and the people that live locally as something where they can, as a place where they can come and see and experience for themselves the power of live entertainment.
Wonderful. And we can add this in or not, but actually I love my architecture, and I watched this wonderful, the video when you had the two chaps on talking about country houses. But
the Country House podcast.
That's right.
Jeff Heath Taylor.
But
you can give him a plug, because he's I'm sure he'll reciprocate.
But
he's an enthusiast.
I love the story about how when you approached a few architects I suppose that's the opera hall through there, and the architects said to you, I've never designed an opera theatre, and he did the best job, and you were so effusive about it, because he said, I've never done one, and you said, go for it, and he did a fantastic job. It's hard this is the 13th century.
Yeah, grade 2 listed.
Grade 2 listed, yeah.
Yeah, I think the specific point that I was making was that we spoke to a number of different architects, a number of whom were theatre experts. But Stephen Witherford of Witherford Watson Mann, his sort of starting point is, I've never done a theatre in my life, but I love listed buildings. And I think that for the point of view of this theatre, what makes it special and unique is the very seamless and sympathetic intervention into a listed building. And, interestingly, in terms of pure architecture, we weren't looking to build a new building. We were just looking to make an intervention into this building, and therefore that sort of sympathy to the listed building was incredibly important. And that, and he said, he was honest. He said, "I've never done theatre, but I do love this building, and I'll make something very special," which is what subsequently he did. Or they did, because it was a partnership that did it.
Okay, your Life Curated. David, you've had an incredible life.
Been very lucky.
Very lucky, but incredible life. If you were to curate an exhibition of your life, which key moments, good or bad, would you choose that made a significant impact?
Well, it's interesting because if I look at my collection, it is quite personal in various different ways. And I've got this collection here, but I've also got more pictures in my house in London, in my house in Yorkshire, and in my office. And I would look at it, it's more about place than it is about moments. Because a lot of the pictures, so for example, Harlan Miller, which you've got there, is a direct reference to Grimsby, where I grew up.
Perfect for you, right?
So, yes. And, equally at my house, I grew up by the sea. So my house in Yorkshire, there's quite a lot of seascapes. And seascapes are relevant because of that, of my growing up years, spending a lot of time by the sea. And equally, pictures of landscapes that are important to me. So Lincoln Cathedral is something that figures not in this collection but elsewhere. So I would say that my collection already is quite personalised. But if I were to curate a show about me, it would definitely focus on those places that are important to me.
Great answer. Okay, last few questions. I mentioned you're a philanthropist. And the David Ross Foundation is kind of pretty amazing. I spend a lot of time on your website, and you support so many different causes. How did you decide where your philanthropic focus would lie?
Well, I think that charity begins at home. So I agree, we do support quite a lot of different causes, but there would be a common thread, which they are generally close to home. Close to home meaning the school that I went to, the place that I grew up, the university that I went to, the institution being the National Portrait Gallery that I then committed nearly 20 years of my life to.
Ross Place.
Well spotted.
I see it all the time.
Well, I'm delighted.
It's still there.
It should be, yeah, for at least another 25 years, I hope.
Can I just say, I think that is, out of everything that you do, I thought that was super cool. Really, with the Tracy M indoors and then Ross Place.
Well,
it's a great thing to do. I mean, you can't say it. How many times you walk past that and thought, that's my place?
Well, I cycle past it every Monday when I go from King's Cross to my office in St James, and as it happens, I don't know whether I have to cycle that way, but I do cycle that way. But it's a kickback to the fact that every Monday when I was chair of the organisation, I would like to know: are the doors open? Is it looking tidy? I just liked at the beginning of the week to
give it a quick sweep.
I wouldn't give it a quick sweep, but I just like to know what was going on, and I still cycle past it every day. So I look at it every Monday. Well, whenever I am going from my office to St Pancras or in reverse, I like to have a.
I think it's really cool, honestly.
Well, you're very kind.
I think it's really cool. Okay, back to philanthropy because it's a big.
So I would say that charity begins at home. So the common thread is all around places that are important to me, and likewise, if I then look at what I was lucky enough, if I look at my life and what I was lucky enough to enjoy, I loved my education. So I support education, I support my old school, I support my old university. If you are lucky enough to embrace not only education, but the opportunities that you get through education and the friendships you make, then that, I think, sets you up incredibly well in life, hence our passion for education. And then, I go back to other places that are important to me. I talked about some of my earliest musical experiences, clearly Lincoln Cathedral. That goes back into my family history about growing up in Lincolnshire and spending time in Lincoln Cathedral and being in Lincoln, being in Grimsby. So I think there's a very common thread to what we're trying to achieve.
And I think on your website, I think one of the first things I read was, every child needs an education or deserves an education,
Yes.
which is, so true. I want to talk about wealth. Do you believe wealth carries an obligation, or is that a personal choice? And as you grew wealthy, and you don't have to answer this, how has it changed you?
Well,
having so much.
I think wealth provides an opportunity more than an obligation, and you can choose to exercise that opportunity in the way you see most fit. I don't think it's an obligation, but I do think it creates opportunities, and it's opportunities to create, wonderful things like this festival, which are of a benefit to many young people and to a local community. That's a great opportunity to be able to do that. As to whether it changes you, look, inevitably, I would say probably it does change you, but it also changes the way people respond to you.
Yeah.
So that's a two-way street, that particular, that question, because it will over time change your view of the world, but it will also change the way people view you. So you have to remember old friendships.
Of course. Are you and Charles still friends?
Yes, we are.
Do you still speak to each other?
We speak to each other regularly, not every day like we used to, but we're still in touch regularly.
Okay, we're coming to the end. You have been the chair of the Royal Opera House, the National Portrait Gallery, the Olympic Committee. What's the biggest misconception people have about leading cultural institutions? And also, can I ask, what does a chair do?
Well, of all of those, the one that I would refer to most clearly would be the National Portrait Gallery, because that would be the one where I was able to be chair at a time of a particularly defining moment for the gallery.
Which was what?
With the Inspiring People project and the new door that you...
That opens up onto Ross Place.
Exactly. The new door. So, what a proactive and engaged chair will do is support an institution absolutely to the hilt, and not only support that institution with time, with energy, with ideas, and ultimately with capital as well, if that's available.
Yeah.
So you need to support an institution, and you need to be part of a team and to support the team in the delivery of a vision for the long-term benefit. The National Portrait Gallery is probably the most important collection of portraits on the planet.
That's amazing.
And it needs to be that collection needs not only to be respected, but it also needs to be supported. It needs to be kept safe, and it needs to continue to be built and to evolve. And that is really what I feel we did in my term as a trustee and as a chair.
I've known of you for a long time, of course, with Carphone Warehouse, but I'll never forget sitting on the tube, and I love Hockney, and you saved the Royal Opera House by buying that Hockney.
Indeed. I'm not sure I saved it, but I did help them then, yes.
You did help me. And I remember, can you go into the details of that, or was it just... Because I actually thought how amazing that was. Because they really struggled after COVID and they needed money. And the subject was he's one of the chairmen of the Royal
previous
Opera House.
director, David Webster.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, wow, how amazing. And you stepped in and bought it.
Well, somebody would have bought the picture. I just thought at the time that it would be nice, during my tenure as chair, that it was effectively retained for the institution. And then when I was at the MPG, I retained it.
Are you still chair of anything else now? The Olympic Committee?
No, I was not chairman of the... I'm on the board of the British Olympic Association, the British Paralympic Association, so I'm still involved with the Olympic. I think I'm still chairman of the David Ross Education Trust, and I'm probably still chairman of the David Ross Foundation. But what you have to remember in life is as you get older, it could be you become less relevant, so
Okay, quick fire.
And obviously the Nevill Holt Festival is very important to me.
Yeah, of course. And we'll get back to that in a second, but I always ask my quick fires. Your favourite book?
My favourite book? Oh, I'm reading a very good book at the moment. I'm a big enthusiast for the book that I'm reading at the moment. I'm reading the book at the moment by the lady that left Facebook.
I know exactly who you're talking about, but I can't remember her name. What is her name?
Yes, it's absolutely fantastic. It's a brilliant book.
I want to start with an M. Okay.
So the previous book that I read, well, I know I'm there Chris Steele, Unredacted, his book about the relationship between Trump and Putin. I enjoyed geopolitical stuff like that, and that was absolutely fascinating.
Favorite film?
I have a few of those. I've given myself over the last month a deep immersion into all things Mossad and Iranian. So I watched Tehran, Argo,
Argo's amazing.
and Fauda as part of an opportunity to sort of have a broader think about what is going on in that part of the world.
And
I've answered both of those in quite an oblique way, because I'm not telling you favourites, I'm just telling you what I'm doing at the moment.
And Argo's a true story as well.
Based on a true story.
Based on a true story. Historical figure you most relate to?
Well, of course, I think for our generation, we are inevitably guided by the achievements of Churchill and Thatcher, because between the pair of them, they shaped in different ways my parents' life and my life.
Okay, let's go back to Nevill Holt, because it's coming up and the weather's beautiful. Give me the dates again. It's end of May?
Yes, 29th of May until the 21st of June.
Nice. And how many people come?
20,000
20,000.
plus.
Wow. And does that number grow year on year?
Yes.
Okay. I will get the press release and I will announce all the details on the podcast. Okay, last question, final question. Who would you commission, living or dead, to do your portrait?
This is it's a very sad story. As part of my departure from the National Portrait Gallery, I was in discussions with the MPG about commissioning a portrait of me. And I was rather taken, and have been rather taken by the work of Martin Parr, and in particular the work of Martin Parr in relation, somebody who comes from Grimsby, Cleethorpes, those sort of things. The idea of having some sort of super kitsch picture of me in Grimsby on the beach, maybe in a deck chair. I think he was a fantastic artist who really captured some of that fantastic social history of Britain.
Yeah, great answer. I've never had that.
And I thought that a portrait of me by Martin Parr in the very same, inefficient chip shop in Grimsby, or alternatively on the beach in Grimsby, that was something that I thought would be a wonderful sort of celebration of my love of his art, his reflection of social history, and a place that I came from.
Yeah, great.
But sadly, very sadly, he
How
died.
close did you get?
Well, we got an agreement, we got a fee, we got it all, but sadly, then obviously, tragically, he died much faster than anticipated over that weekend, and it didn't happen.
God, so close. I studied photography, and he was one of those that I really kind of...
Absolutely iconic and wonderful photographer.
And also, it's hard to describe his work because it looks like it's this reportage, but the saturation, the angles. I was actually imagining you on a deck chair with a bag of chips.
Yeah. Well, it would be for somebody who comes from Grimsby and is incredibly proud of Grimsby and celebrates his Grimsby heritage in the way that I do. Obviously, with the work he'd done in other sort of seaside environments like that, were very evocative of some of my childhood experiences. In the early years of my life, when travelling outside the UK wasn't as easy as we used to go to Skegness as part, and so those are some of my earliest experiences of British holiday life. So it really sort of resonated in terms of my historic memories versus his extraordinary art, versus how I could bring all of those things together in a way that I would celebrate.
God, that's an answer I wasn't expecting. And last one, dead? Anyone from the past?
In what sense?
I mean, sorry, or living. Which current artist would you have paint your portrait?
Oh, look, one of my deepest friendships in the art world is with Johnny Yeo, and I have a number of his pictures, and he's painted me.
He's on the website.
He's painted me on a number of occasions. So it would be...
Is it here?
One of them his, one of them's on loan. We do a lot of loans. So one of them's on loan. One of them's here, one of them's on loan. I think I would, for the sake of that loyalty, that friendship, he then has supported me and helped me as a trustee, as in an incredibly valuable way as a trustee of the National Portrait Gallery, as well as being a great artist. So he would be my...
Yeah, I'm recording him with him in May.
Oh, he's a fantastic man.
Yeah,
fantastic man.
He's a good guy. David, that's it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.